Agnieszka Leszczyńska-Pietkiewicz, and I will talk about mobile application based on the existing website and about UX approach. First of all, I will mention what is UX actually, and we'll talk about some basic questions you need to ask yourselves before you start creating an app. Later, we will focus on user needs, on UX methods, and on application itself. So user benefits, popular mistakes, and recommended UX process. So this slide is really bad. I know it's not UX, but it's definition. So I need to mention this anyway because I have to if I talk about UX. What is user experience? It's a totality of effects felt by the user as a result of interaction with anything. For example, system, device, product. And it includes usability, usefulness, emotional impact, and memory. Then we have usability. This is not the same. As you see above, usability is part of user experience. And it's a component which includes effectiveness, efficiency, productivity, ease to use, learnability, retainability, and satisfaction of user. Basically, it's how easy it is to learn or use something. This is usability. So I hope you got it. So we can go next. This is the most simple flow of how you should think about designing anything. First of all, you need to analyze what are user needs. Later, you need to design. Like, design should include what you analyzed before, obviously. So user needs and some concepts about interaction with your product. Later, you need to implement, of course, what you designed. And it would be good to create some prototypes and to compare them. Later, it's good to evaluate what you already implemented. So then you need UX research methods, which can be very simple, I will tell you later. And you should verify your ideas, your implementation, your designs. And this is a flow. You have to do it every time. Because if you release an application or a website or whatever, you still need to analyze and to make user satisfied with your product. So, why does your website need an app? Some people don't have answer for this question, really. Because why would your user use the app instead of a mobile view? Like, if you don't have a proper app, if you don't have a really good reason to create an app, then you should not do it, really. Because people will just use mobile view and your app won't have a lot of downloads and nobody will use it. You will lose money and time on designing something which you don't need. Some aims of company can be like income, right? You have an app, so you earn more. Or you want to be better than the others. But also some people say, I just want to have an application just because. And it's not a good approach, and I would discourage you from having this one. Other aims can be like something what comes from sales or marketing. It's like buy more or pay more, or you want to have more users, or you want to generate more flow, anything. But first of all, you need to engage a user into the application, and you need to convince a user to use the app. Like, if it doesn't happen, then none of the above will happen either. So now let's focus on the user. How we want users to use the application. This is the final slide of my presentation because it's really obvious, but as it sometimes appears, it's not obvious. What does it mean to use? Of course, you need to find an app, you need to install it, you need to use it, but what does it mean for the owner of the shop? Like, how often people should use this app? Should they search product only, or should they buy product? And this is not really the same, because some people just use application just for searching, and they will never buy it there. So if you have such idea to convince people to buy via your application, you need to think about it before. And what can happen if your application is not needed, then it is left unused on the mobile device. Like, just admit how many of you have applications on your smartphone which you never really use, and how many of you uninstall something. Therefore, to use is to need. And it's really good to remember this, and this presentation is about it. And now I have a question to you. If you define functionalities and you define design for your application, whose needs are the most important for you? Like, for example, IT team needs, or sales marketing department needs, or maybe CEO needs, or designers needs, or users needs. Who knows the answer? Hands up. A? A. I thought so. Anyone else? All right. Anyone knows the correct answer for this question? Yeah, I mean, it's obvious, but some people forget about it. And if you focus on needs on every other team, like IT, CEO, designers, marketing, sales, you will create a bunch of different functionalities and designs which actually don't fit the most important person in the world for your application, so the user. This is obvious. So how to talk about it? Like, user has some problems, which is actually called pains. His problems are resolved, and it's called gains. So it means user needs the application, and user uses the application. It's pretty logical, but many people forget about it. So let's keep it. There's an example. For example, I like browsing the shop page, but I need time to take decisions. After long searching, I found several nice products, but I don't want to lose these results. So my need is, I want to save my searching results for future. The solution to create to create favorites, which is a functionality which actually solves the problem. So it came from the user. It's not that we want to have favorites just because. It's just because people need such a thing. Another, I am in a hurry, now waiting for the lunch. I like buying quickly, just after finding the product. So I found a proper shirt for the Meet Agenda after party, and I need to order it right now. So my need is to buy quickly while being in a hurry and sitting by the table. So solution is like mobility and credit card, for example. I can pay quickly by using my credit card saved in the app while eating lunch. And if you add such feature to your mobile application, you will make people buying more often in such situation. They were just two examples. They can be much, much more. But how do we know what users need? We can use UX methods, which actually, there are a lot of them. Why? I explained already before. And when? You can use it in two situations. When you already have something, like a website, or if you have new ideas, like for an app, or you want to correct your website, refine it, make it better. You can choose also between rapid methods and rigorous methods, and I won't talk about them because it could take me 4 presentations like this, but I can just mention the simplest one and the most useful one. You should draw a typical user path for your shop. You can also use contextual interview. This is very easy. You just take a user and show him your website and give him some task to do, and you just listen to him and see what is his flow, how he follows the application, what he's clicking. This is really easy, just you need patience and time. Also time tasks, how quickly a user will find something. So you just, for example, show him your website and say, just find this and that, and you count how many minutes and how much time it takes to find something. If it takes too much, it means it is in the wrong place. Also click tests, A/B testing, which is pretty popular, and you can do it everywhere. And how many users do you need? The answer is not so many, because this is quality research. You need actually 4 to 6 users to find the worst bugs. Of course, to have a really proper research, you need more. But all research say 4 to 6 users is really enough to find the worst bugs. All right, so let's go to the core of the presentation, and we will talk about application. There are some values of a mobile application, which can be users' benefits. Of course, there are many values we can think about, but I will just distinguish psychological, UX, and technical benefits for the users. For example, psychological benefits for the user. He wants to be admired, so you add social sharing and ability to like something. Feeling motivated is a benefit as well. So you give him some kind of evaluation, rewards. If you do this and that, we will give you this and that. Engagement, you can use, for example, quizzes. Gamification, you can use games, I mean not proper games, but just thinking like this, gaining levels. You can gain points for something and exchange it for money. Gamification is actually a very wide topic, so it's a lot of this in every good product we have around us. Also, obviously fun. Like users like to earn points, score, to play. Pleasure in use, so friendly user interface. If you neglect this, like people will not like to use your app. Feedback about ourselves. This is very tricky and it works really well. People really love to have some quizzes which are stupid and nobody admits they do it. But actually they do, like most of them. And if you get some results, you always are happy about it and it just brings you closer to the application. So it's nice, fun, pleasant, engaging, motivating. Okay, so UX benefits. For example, acceleration. So you can find the product quickly. Like you don't have to look for it for minutes. Facilitation. For example, QR scan, you can find the correct product size quicker. You're in a shop, like offline real shop, and you want to check is it online. So you just use the scan and you know it. It's really quick and easy. You should also avoid over-information. You should have good user interface. For time saving, examples like fewer steps in checkout and mobile payments. Like they are really core of earning money. So if you have too long checkout and if it takes so much time to pay, like people just won't do it. Energy saving. Shop is easy to access on the mobile. You just have it on your phone, so you can access it anytime. Fewer steps to access the app. Mobility. You can use it anytime and any place, in a tram, in a train, while sitting somewhere outside. You just can browse products anywhere. It's pretty obvious. And saving money. For example, there are special discounts for mobile users, and this is practical for the user to save money as well. So the core of it is practical, easy, fast, cheap. There are also technical benefits at last. It's obvious, but people forget about it. Like mobile devices have something what doesn't have a computer. You can have GPS, camera front and back. All right, it is on the computers, but it's not used on the shops. Bluetooth and so on. So you can use them for adding new values, so adding benefits for user on the application. By GPS, you can locate the shop, like real shop position. By camera, you can use photos for anything, for having a picture and sending it to your friends in a new shirt, for example. External modules, you can always use it, like QR code reader, as I mentioned, mirrors, also additional apps. Bluetooth, obviously, external devices, and maybe some alerts. Internet of Things, yeah, this is, you can think about anything right now. This is a really futuristic, not really futuristic as you heard today, but you can figure out anything there. Touch and sounds. This is something that doesn't really happen on the computer. Obviously you have sounds, but you don't really use them on the website version of the shop. But maybe it's some delicate use of them in the app would be a good idea. Also, contacts, SMS, MMS, sharing the product with the family. This is also a thing you can use. And obviously over mobile application. For example, for paying, like PayPal or anything, I don't want to advertise anyone. Social media, scanners, anything what you can connect to your application. So the core thing of this technical benefits is to be better and different than the website and a computer. All right. We want to have an app, and we already have a website. What should be more? What should be less? What should be the same? Where is different? So let's say UX recommendations would be, app should have something more than the website in values, in options, and benefits. Because otherwise, you will never convince user to use it instead of the web view. It will be basically the same what is the web view. So just add something, what I was mentioning, like technical, psychological, UX, benefits, or anything you just figure out it is needed and it's cool. Because otherwise app will be really the same what is mobile view. What should be the same as the website? Basically logic and consistency. So some default options which you should not change too much. Identification with the company, like you should know this app comes from this website. So you basically should put somewhere logotype. It actually doesn't happen often, but yeah, there are mistakes like this. And you should have some core design similar to the website. Doesn't have to be the same, but it's good to connect colors to the shop. Also, what should be less in an app than on the website? Content, seriously. Amount of information, lighter design, not overloaded. Like we have so small space on the smartphones, and we should really think wisely what should be there. All right, so now some examples. Mistakes, what can go wrong? It was really tempting to put like screens of other applications which are not good, but I don't think it would be proper for the presentation, so it will be just text without mentioning the apps. This is obvious. This slide is also obvious, but it really happens. There are applications which don't work, and also which are crashing. And obviously there are mistakes like problem with API, internet, servers, external modules, compatibility with system versions, also no communicates for errors. Like this is pretty obvious, so I will just skip to the next one. We can talk about mistakes and features. So for example, there was an app. It was favorites on the app and was wishlist on the web and was not the same. So you added something on the website where you were logged in, and later you logged into your app, but it was not the same. And nothing just synced with favorites. They were two different things. And you could not choose wishlist on the app, and you could not choose favorites on the web. Also, lack of synchronization between the app and the web and the user account is also a big mistake. For example, different user account tabs in the web and the app. Of course, if it makes sense, you should have all of them, not just make it smaller and worse on the app. There are also examples of more than one user accounts needed, and you don't know what's the difference between them, like why you should have two user accounts and to see just some things on one and another things on another. Like there are examples like this, really. Other smaller mistakes, it's like, for example, no information about size, availability, or in the real offline shop, or no time for delivery. Like people should know this, but sometimes you forget about it in your app. It should be also list of orders and possibility of returns. It also happens, it's not there. And also, very important, paying is very uncomfortable on the mobile. Like people, if you want people to buy via your application, you should really think about it. As I mentioned before, if you don't want to have your app only for searching the product, but also for buying, just this is a core thing. And now mistakes from the UX and user interface area. For example, add to cart button is hidden. You cannot find it easily, so you don't add to cart as often as you would like to. No feedback added to cart, like how I should know I add something. Too many steps in checkout. It takes forever to pay, so why I will pay? I will just skip it and not buy it. Too complicated navigations, filters, too many toolbars. User is lost in such a situation. It's like a labyrinth for him. So let's make it easier. Also, the big mistake, overloaded with the content. Like if your app has exactly the same what was on the website. In case of content, it's really not a good approach. You should really think about erasing some data and have shorter descriptions or anything, or hiding at least some information under the buttons. Too many words, not enough icons, pictures. You can use pictures instead of words sometimes, and it's also a good approach. And another thing, a lack of integrity and also feeling lost again. Too many pop-ups, too many styles, too many different buttons. Like sometimes people just, as I mentioned, if you have a mix of people working on the app and everybody says my needs are the most important, and everybody adds something and you don't think about the user and his behavior and his feelings while he's using the app, you can have many styles, many different buttons just because somebody likes this. So just this is really core thing, to not to have such a feeling for the user because he won't use it, the app. Also some logical things. I don't know why it happens, but there are some examples like this. Different naming on the website and in the app. Like on the website you have favorites, on the app you have wishlist, like why? Sometimes you have add to cart and add to basket and buy, like different names. And it really matters how you name things and what user is expecting after clicking this. Also delivery, shipping, shipment. Like why not to call it the same on the app and the same on the website? And also go to checkout and pay. This is actually a big difference in meanings. So as you see the sets, they should not be like this. Also different default options than on the website. If you want to have it less, like as I said before, to cut some information, it's a good approach, but not to change it. So less doesn't mean totally different. So you cannot change the names of filters, for example, or names of categories, or exclude a lot of paying methods. Just everything has to be logical. So it's good to think about it before how you want to change something or cut something out. It could be less, but it should not be totally different. All right, so now we know mistakes. I could say what you should do to have a nice application, and it would be repeating the slides, just changing the grammar to say, yeah, just do this and that. So basically focusing on mistakes to avoid them is the right approach. And in addition, I can tell you a little bit about the process, how you should think about your application from the approach of user experience. This is again the same flow. First analyze, then design, then implement, possibly some prototypes to compare, then evaluate them with users. Use some UX methods. As I said, for example, contextual interview is very easy. You don't need special people to do that. You just need patience and time to do that. And later analyze again, design again, implement again, and so on. And talking about details, it's good to define target group. Who is your customer? I mean, sometimes people forget about it. Later, you should create so-called user persona. So it's like a typical user. You should write for him kind of a scenario. This is a little bit similar to what I showed, like these two examples before. And after you do that, you should write raw typical user path. So where he's going, what is his first step, what is his second step, like how he feels and walks in your website or in your application. It would be good to have first a user path created based on your website, and then think about it, how you want to switch it to the application. So after you do that, you should also identify user problems, what they really need to have. So you define their needs. If you have problems, you obviously have their needs. And based on the needs, you should list features of the app. Like just basing on this, obviously aims of the company and of the sales department and CEO are important. But if we talk about details in the application, users will use application only if it's useful for them. So this is the last slide. If you already have done these things before, then you can implement prototypes. You should do evaluation, so like UX research. Then you should correct your prototypes. And then you can release your application. But this is not the end. At the end, you need to get feedback and do UX research again, and correct and release. So basically, having an app, creating the app based on your website is to get information about your users, analyze them, later design it, implement, compare, and do some UX research, and later release and repeat last steps again. So thank you so much. I hope you like it. I can recommend you some books. And that's it. Thank you.